الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. عن أبي جريج جابر بن سليم رضي الله عنه قال: قلت لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: اعهد إلي. قال: لا تسبن أحد. قال: فما سببت بعده حرا ولا عبدا ولا بعيرا ولا شاة. قال: ولا تحقرن شيئا من المعروف، وأن تكلم أخاك وأنت منبسط إليه وجهك، إن ذلك من المعروف. وارفع إزارك إلى نصف الساق، فإن أبيت فإلى الكعبين، وإياك وإسبال الإزار فإنها من المخيلة، وإن الله لا يحب المخيلة. وإن امرؤ شتمك وعيرك بما يعلم فيك فلا تعيره بما تعلم فيه، فإنما وبال ذلك عليه، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام، وهو بعض الحديث رواه أبو داود. In continuation of our halaq of hadith, dars of hadith from the book of Muntakhab Ahadith. This is a continuation of the chapter of Ikram al-Muslim, honoring the rights of a Muslim, and again, stern warning against harming a Muslim. This is the hadith number 285 in this chapter. This hadith is from Abu Dawood. Sayyidina Abu Jurayj Jabir ibn Sulaiman radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that I asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, i'had ilayya, give me some advice. Qala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told him, la tasubbanna ahad, do not abuse anyone. Qala, the Rawi Abu Jurayj Jabir ibn Sulaiman radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that after this, فَمَا سَبَبْدُ بَعْدَهُ حُرًّا وَلَا عَبْدًا وَلَا بَعِيرًا وَلَا شَاةً. He said, after this, I never abused a free man or a slave or a camel or a goat. Basically, I never abused anyone or abused anything. قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam further advised, وَلَا تَحْقِرَنَّ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ. Do not consider any good. Don't ever look down on any good. Don't ever consider any good insignificant. وأن تكلم أخاك وأنت منبسط إليه وجهك وأنت منبسط إليه وجهك إن ذلك من المعروف. And even speaking to your brother when you have a smile on your face, that is also al-ma'ruf, that is also kindness and good. That is also considered a good act. وارفع إزارك إلى نصف الساق فإن أبيت فإلى الكعبين وإياك وإسبال الإزار. And keep your trousers to half of your shin. And if you want, you can go up to your ankles. But beware of dragging your trousers below your ankles. فَإِنَّهَا مِنَ الْمَخِيلَةِ, because that is from pride. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمَخِيلَةِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not like pride, or those who have pride. وَإِنِ امْرُؤٌ شَتَّمَكَ وَعَيَّرَكَ بِمَا يَعْلَمُ فِيكَ فَلَا تُعَيِّرْهُ بِمَا تَعْلَمُ فِيهِ فَإِنَّمَا وَبَالُ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِ. And if someone is trying to shame you and abuse you with something that they know, they're trying to disgrace you in front of others with some information they have about you, then don't return that against them. Don't turn around and try to humiliate them with something you know about them. إِنَّمَا وَبَالُ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِ. Because then the burden of that, what they're doing, will fall on them. Just leave them to try and humiliate you with whatever they know about you. And this is only part of a hadith from Abu Dawood. We did go over some of these points, such as the first two major points, that do not abuse anyone and also do not look down on any good deed. We should never ever look down on any good deed, any righteous deed. We should never consider it insignificant. We should understand the significance of every single good deed. even if it is something that is small, but something that is continuous. Remember, something done on a continuous basis, it has a much more profound impact. So this is very, very beautiful advice from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَلَا تَحْقِرَنَّ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ. Do not consider any good deed insignificant. Don't look down on any good deed. We should understand that righteous deeds, even if they're very small, but if they're done consistently, then that consistency will build up. And that consistency has a very, very profound impact. And that is actually much better and has more lasting effect than doing a whole lot of good deeds just at one time. And there's so many examples that we can take from our day-to-day lives in everything. For those who are familiar with the system of exercise, we're taught to exercise every day rather than doing a whole lot at once on one day and then giving up. We're encouraged to do exercise every day, even if it is small amounts. But something done on a regular basis, it builds the muscles much better, rather than someone trying to do a whole lot of exercise on one day. We know that can harm a person if they're not used to doing a lot of exercise, and all of a sudden they want to push their body beyond its limits because they see someone exercising. So that is also the system of, and that is just in our day-to-day lives, that is the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set in this world. Someone wants to go on a diet and they cut down on foods, and all of a sudden they go to the extreme one day or a few days. After a few days, they'll give up. But if they do it consistently, very, very slowly, then that slow and subtle movement, it has a profound impact. And we should apply this rule in everything in our life. Even good deeds that we're doing, we should not just suddenly do a whole bunch of good deeds and then give up. This should not be the way. We should start small and slowly, slowly build up, and try. And the main important aspect is consistency. And that is the kind of a'mal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves. There's a system of istiqama. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Definitely those that say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Rabb. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, then they're steadfast on this. They continuously do the good deeds on a regular basis. And that has a much more profound impact. You may not see the change right away because you're doing it every single day, but over some period of time, you'll be surprised by the progress. Even our own children, when they're born and they're young, and they start to, first they start to turn around, and then they start to crawl. And from crawling, they're able to slowly stand up, and then they start to walk around. The parents, they're watching this happening every day. It's only amazing at that moment when they stand up, or that moment when they take a few steps, the parents are excited. But because it's every single day they're seeing that gradual growth, it's something they get used to. But someone who does not see the child every day all the time, if they see the baby after a few months or after a year or two, they're surprised the child can walk around and run, and it's something it's a big change. But that subtle growth, that is what happens to us throughout our lives. And we can also gauge our own progress in our day-to-day lives. How many things we wanted to start, but we ended up taking the burden of how difficult it was and thinking how long it would take and how much effort I'll have to put in. And when you start thinking about these things, how heavy and how difficult and how much time, we're told that it'll take these many days or these many weeks or these many months, or this particular degree may take these many years, then sometimes that thought alone is what stops us from even taking the first step. But many of those who go into it and those who pass and even get those degrees, they have one very easy formula. They just take it a day at a time. And that's a very beautiful formula. You take it a day at a time, or a project at a time, or a course at a time. And when you start taking it in that gradual way, before you know it, you're finished. So that gradual growth is very, very important. Rather than trying to scale a mountain or jump over a mountain, it doesn't work when you try and put all your energy and within a very short period of time, you burn yourself out. You don't get the progress, or you don't get the results you're looking for. So every single good deed, there are many, many righteous deeds that may be very, very small in our eyes. But though they are very small, they have a very, very profound impact. There was an example that was given. It's a very beautiful example that when a flood comes, and flood is immense amount of water and a lot of rush and power the flood has. And what the flood does is that it can take a rock and it can throw the rock very, very far. It can take the rock very far, sometimes even miles, one rock. But you'll find the rock intact. The rock will not be broken or unless it hits something, but you'll still find the rock generally intact. But you take another example of a continuous drop of water on a rock. The rock is not being moved, it's sitting there, and there's a continuous drop of water, drop by drop coming. Eventually what happens is the rock cracks, it breaks. That one drop continuously, after months or after some time, for a long period of time, that continuous drop will dent the rock and eventually break through the rock. They'll make a hole in the rock. And we might be thinking what pressure a drop has. Drop is coming. It's very subtle, very light pressure. We may not even consider it something very serious pressure. But that small drop has so much impact that it can even break a rock. And that is how righteous deeds are. If we look at our hearts, sometimes because of sin, sometimes because of hubb dunya, the love for the world, love for material things of this world, sometimes for one reason or another, our hearts, they become hardened. And even we see the biggest of miracles, or we're even shown the biggest of miracles, they have very little to any impact in breaking through that heart that is like a rock. And that is the example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in the Quran. Regarding the Bani Israel, on many, many occasions, they were given so many major miracles. They were shown amazing signs. But even after being shown such amazing and extraordinary miracles, extraordinary signs, rather than believing, they became more intense in their disbelief and kufr. One of those examples Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the story of the Baqarah, where a wealthy person was killed and the family members were demanding from Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam that the killer be found. And this wealthy person did not have any heir to his wealth except one nephew. And this nephew would have inherited all the wealth, but in the end, the nephew went and killed his uncle, this very wealthy man. And the family member, and he left the body at the doorstep of someone else, but the family was investigating to try and find the killer. So they came to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and asked him to point out for us the killer. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the command, the family that commanded, go and kill a baqarah, a cow, and with a piece of that cow hit the dead body, and he will come out and point out his killer. And they started asking about what kind of cow it was. They wanted to delay, and they were asking many strange questions. But eventually they found the cow, and they did slaughter the cow and hit the dead body with the cow, or with a piece of the cow. And the dead came back to life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا فَادَّارَأْتُمْ فِيهَا وَاللَّهُ مُخْرِجٌ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْتُمُونَ فَقُلْنَا اضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا كَذَلِكَ يُحْيِي اللَّهُ الْمَوْتَى وَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. There was an individual that was killed, or you killed an individual, and you were trying to hide the killer. Deep down inside their hearts, they kind of knew who the killer was, or trying to hide him. But eventually they ended up having to fulfill the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dead came back to life, pointed out his killer, this is the one who killed me, this is why he killed me, everything. And after seeing such a major miracle, major sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what impact did it have on them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah, ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Then after this, your hearts became even more hardened, like stones, or even harder than a stone. And various examples are given. One of those also the flood that comes. So they saw such a major miracle, but it did not impact their hearts. Like the massive flood that comes and can take a rock very far, but doesn't penetrate through the rock. Whereas you find for those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who are willing to change their life, even small a'mal they consider doing on a daily basis, it completely changes their hearts. One of those a'mal is also the 5 times daily salah. It doesn't take very long to pray the salah. It doesn't take a lot of effort to pray the salah. If we're sincere and we're careful with our time, we can really take care of the salah. And what impact it has. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Definitely salah will stop you and prevent you, will protect you and save you from immodest, immoral acts and sins, disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the effect that salah has. There are many who say, oh, I commit so many sins and I'm so evil. Why should I pray? That's the main reason why you should be praying, because salah will help you to stop those sins. It may be a very subtle effect, but over time, you'll end up giving up the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that we should understand with the righteous deeds. Though they may seem small, they may not be very big in our eyes, but if somebody is doing them continuously, you'll see the effect of those a'mal in the life of many people. And some of these righteous deeds are very, very, very effective. They can completely transform and change the environment of a person. Whether it is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dua, particular adhkar, whatever it might be. Some of these, even the tilawat of the Quran, they have such a profound impact. But the impact is subtle. It comes slowly. First, certain things change in a person's life. And then slowly, one thing is changing. The person is completely transformed by that good deed that they're performing on a regular basis. Even if it's a very, very small good deed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَدَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغَ